I'm Arden Lingenhoel with Keller Williams Chervenic Realty, and I'm joined today by Jim Sheppard. And Jim is an agent at our office, and he is the manager of Sheppard Associates. And he's the director of property management at Keller Williams Chervenic Realty. I got that all out, Jim.
You got it all out.
Can you believe that? I even used the teleprompter. Lisa set that up for me. So
thank you, Lisa.
But anyway, we're going to be talking a little bit today about property management. Jim deals with taking your properties and converting them into cash.
Well, we try to.
Pretty much.
We try to. We like when our owners are profitable. When our owners are profitable, everything's going well.
What different phases do you do with property management then?
So Arden, we're full service. We will do a la carte leasing. So if we have an owner who just wants us to do the leasing and background checks, we'll do that. As far as property management goes, we're completely full service. In a perfect world, your tenant doesn't know who you are. So we're collecting rents, we're taking the maintenance calls, we're taking care of any type of legal, if you would have it, we're enforcing your lease, making sure your rental registrations are up to par, that you're compliant with the city and county that you're in. And of course, we do the fun stuff where we do your accounting and we pay you every month, which is...
So I just sit back and collect my check pretty much then, if I want to.
Yeah, that's what we want. Kind of the old saying is we do 90% of the work and we take about 10% of your profit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you've been with the company with Keller Williams Chervenic how many years?
I've been with Keller Williams Chervenic Realty for 14 years. I was an independent broker before that.
Okay.
Had worked for a couple other small real estate companies before then. As you can imagine, there's not many little boys out there that grow up and say, I want to be a property manager when I grow up. And I wasn't one of them. And early in my career, I found that I just gravitated towards working with investors. And I was an investor myself when I got into the business. And we got to the point where our properties were really becoming more of a job to manage them. And we went to a handful of different property management companies, and we just couldn't find a good one. And we got so frustrated that we thought, all right, what if we built one? So we opened ours originally in 2007. Got a lot of experience along the way. You know, experience is what you get when you don't get what you wanted. Today, my team manages, as of this morning, 827 units for just under 300 investors.
No kidding. Wow.
We have an M1 network of just under 1,000 investors that we market to and talk to on a regular basis. And I'm now part of a national group with about 25 different property management companies throughout the country. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Now, how many people are part of your team?
We have 12 people on staff. So just every day in the office, they're the ones that are going to be answering your calls when you call in. They're the ones that will be handling your accounting, your maintenance. And then I have 11 real estate agents that are out in the field, either helping our investors acquire new property, filling vacant units, or helping to liquidate when an owner says it's time to sell.
Right, right. Well, I wanted to touch a little bit on a couple things, Jim. One we're going to talk about you, the public that have investment properties. You may have a duplex. You may have quite a few units, and you do your own property management, or you may be assisting somebody in property management. And we want to touch on that a little bit, Jim, the do's and don'ts of you, the public, because there's some things that you don't realize you need a real estate license for. So you want to touch on that a little bit, Jim?
Yes. So a funny story. I was actually in a continuing education class for property management, pretty high level class. You had to spend some money to get there. And as the attorney who was teaching the class started talking, the guy next to me says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed a real estate license." And so the rule in Ohio, the law in Ohio is if you own real estate, you own a portfolio, and you hire an individual who's not licensed as a W-2 employee, that's fine. It's when they try to act as a 1099 or you do this, I'll do that, or you find somebody for my rental property, I'll pay you a finder's fee. That's when that person is technically practicing real estate without a license.
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, it worked out really well for me. I was able to buy that guy's business at lunchtime. So
That worked out great.
it worked out really well. You know, these are the questions you ask as your portfolio starts to really grow.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, at the point where I got to around 25 properties, I started thinking like, man, this is becoming more of a job than just an investment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody goes through that, and depending on their job and their career, it's going to be at different times. So you start to look for leverage and how to help. And unfortunately, sometimes people go just in the wrong direction. Maybe they got a really great maintenance guy, and then the maintenance guy turns into, well, can you start showing my properties and I'll pay you a finder's fee? And then, well, can you collect rent? And then you start slipping into those areas of practicing real estate without a license that you really want to avoid if you can.
Yeah. You don't want to go to jail.
Well, you're not going to go to jail. You're not going to go to jail, but you will get a nasty gram from the state, and there might be a few fines attached to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, if you're in that spot, and a lot of our owners are there, where they have hundreds of units, it's just important to make sure the people you have on staff are W-2 employees and you're doing it the correct way.
Well, yeah, you have a lot of these owners, they're doing things and, they're watching their money close.
Of course.
Because, they want to keep as much money as they can. Maybe that's why they're not, hiring a property manager. But then a nice little fine comes up and you find out that kind of bit you.
Yeah, sometimes when you think you're saving money, you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have seen some of the fines coming out of the Division of Real Estate in some cases, because it's $200 per occurrence.
Okay.
So if they find you and they really don't like the business you've been running, or if you're running a lot of properties as a management company and you're not licensed, so every time you collected rent, every time you showed a property, every time you paid the owner out, every little act of property management that you did that was unlicensed is a $200 fine.
Oh, wow.
So when you see those coming out of Columbus and you see $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 fines attached, those are almost always unlicensed property managers.
Right, right.
And, we get into a couple other things where even if, you had 50 properties and you came to your local realtor and said, hey, can you help me out? That local realtor still can't do your property management unless they're doing it under the explicit direction of their broker.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas you and I have an agreement saying that I can run the property management company, Keller Williams Chervenic Realty, and you're the broker because, let's face it, your name is on everything too.
Right, right.
So even when you do make that decision to hire a property manager, very first thing you need to ask is, are you licensed? What's your credentials? Do you own properties of your own? Have you invested before? Make sure you're dealing with somebody that's legit, that's going to keep you out of trouble from the get-go.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of a realtor as much as the public, because there's a lot of realtors, like Jim said, can get themselves in a bind. So anyway, we'll be right back after this.
Are you looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle with a great price? Then check out Ted's Auto Sales. Ted's has a great selection of vehicles and will find you the right one that fits your needs. Ted's was founded on trust, integrity, and respect, and has been serving in the Louisville, Ohio and Nimishillen Township area for over 65 years. So call Ted's today at 330-875-9401. Ted's Auto Sales, Louisville's premium pre-owned dealer.
Did you know that when you invest in your smile, you're investing back into your Stark County community? Welcome to Thomas Dental. My name's Tanya. I'm Dr. Mike's practice manager. Every day, we're investing back into our community. Here are just a few of our community efforts. Here at Thomas Dental, our mission is bringing smiles back to our community, one smile at a time.
Hello everyone, I'm Tegan Evans. As many of you know, when the Louisville Herald moved on into retirement, the city of Louisville, Nimishillen Township, and all of its community members were left with a void. The community lost its ability to hear about local events, news, information, sports, and community projects. We lost the ability to come together for Louisville's betterment. Well, we have a solution for you, Spotlight Media Network. Spotlight Media Network is a place anyone can go, whether it be social media, YouTube, or our website, that will display information in different formats to show the best Louisville has to offer. One last thing, if you have something newsworthy or something you would like the community of Louisville to hear about, send us an email at spotlightlouisville1@gmail.com. So if you want to see what is happening in Louisville or the best Louisville has to offer, check out Spotlight Media Network, where we know Louisville is number one.
And we have Jim Sheppard. He's with Keller Williams Chervenic, and he's the property manager at Keller Williams Chervenic.
I'm the director of the property management division.
And Jim, what are some of the things that realtors should look for when they're working with an investor?
That is an excellent question. And in fact, I'm actually doing a talk on this for Education Day, if any of you guys are coming. One of the things that I see agents make where they make a mistake is they don't understand suitability. And maybe they don't understand or they don't ask enough questions as to what investments are going to suit that client the best. Sometimes too often either they don't have the experience or they're just thinking about what they think is a good investment. And they try to push that investor that way. So, you know, that investor that decides, I'm finally going to pull the trigger, I'm going to buy a piece of real estate. We know if that first experience is good and they're profitable, they're oftentimes going to come back and repeat that transaction. And now you have maybe a buyer that's going to buy 4 or 5 times a year from you. Where we mess up and we put them into the wrong piece of real estate or the wrong investment up front, now that's a bad experience. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden you lose that person forever. For example, I just had one. I had a referral to the property management company, and I was talking to the owner, and one of the questions I always ask is, you know, why'd you buy this? And his response to me, Arden, was, I don't know, but every rich person I know owns real estate, so we decided to buy some. And I thought, wow, that's probably should have thought that out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So we dug down and I said, you know, what really are you trying to accomplish? And he said, well, you know, we want to build long-term wealth. So when somebody comes to me like that and they say, well, I don't really need cash flow, but I want to build long-term wealth. Mm-hmm. Then I say, okay, well, let's look at some properties that are going to be A plus, maybe B plus, in desirable neighborhoods where we know we can get longevity and we know that we're going to be able to get 5 to 6% appreciation, and sometimes we get those cycles of really rapid appreciation. And in this case, what I probably would have told him, instead of taking his $100,000 and buying one piece of property in not the best neighborhood that his cash-on-cash return was less than 7%, I would have much rather seen him take $20,000 or take his $100,000 and use it as a 20% down payment on $500,000 worth of real estate. So now if you can get into those neighborhoods that are paying 6% appreciation,
right,
that's $30,000 a year. That's a 30% return on his $100,000 investment. Plus he's got a cash flow. Plus he's going to get tax benefits. Plus he's going to have somebody in there paying down his principal every month. So that would have been a really suitable investment for him. Unfortunately, the agent he worked with pointed him into a direction they thought was a good investment, not a good investment for him. And now on the flip side of that, I have a really good friend of mine who has a special needs son. And we know that eventually he's going to need full-time care. So what my friend is doing is he is buying cash flow properties in the name of his son's trust so that his son will have roughly a $10,000 to $12,000 income from these properties. And with inflation, rents go up with inflation.
Right.
He should be inflation safe. So I think one of the very first things you need to do when you meet a new investor is find out exactly what their goals are. How is that going to change? Definitely stay in touch with them and see if those goals are changing over time. It'd be no different than, if you go to a financial advisor and they're not going to say, hey, Arden, go buy some stock. They're going to sit you down and say, this is what we think is best for you based on what you want to accomplish.
Right.
And I really think that is one thing that every agent, before they talk to that investor, they should know. Just like an investor, when, this is back towards the general public here, I would never go into like a boxing gym and try to take lessons without asking how many fights the guy that is teaching me how to box won.
Right.
Because if he had a losing record, maybe I don't want to work with him, right?
That's a good possibility.
Just like when you are starting to talk to that realtor, I would probably have some questions like, do you own real estate yourself? Had you been successful? How many investors do you work with on a regular basis? And are you as an agent, are you best suited to help me reach my goals?
Right. Well, hey, you had mentioned basically categorizing or classifying properties based on the ABC system. Could you maybe touch on that a little bit so our agents and our public might know what you're talking about?
I will do it as legally as I can. I think the best way I heard it said once was there's properties that people have to live in and there's properties people want to live in. Your B plus, A, those are going to be your very desirable neighborhoods, the properties people really want to live in, the school systems that the people just will pay anything to get their kids into. When you start getting into the C minus, the Ds, those are the ones that are going to be a little bit tougher. They'll be less desirable. You may be looking at a lot more subsidized housing because now you're in properties that people have to live in versus what they want to. You're probably going to find an older housing stock, which means now you're going to have more maintenance. And that's another one I can't talk to investors enough about is understanding what your capital improvements are going to be over a period of time. So if you are buying in those older neighborhoods, maybe you really want to make sure that your cash flow is high enough that you can set a little bit aside every month for when your windows are going to need replaced, when you need to make sure that your house is lead safe or you have a roof that goes bad. And sometimes you find your vacancy rate's a little bit higher in the C neighborhoods.
Yep. Well, I said that we were going to talk a little bit about the agents, how they could get in trouble. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, because just because you sell real estate doesn't mean you're going to get into property management and do this. Jim has worked with a lot of agents in our company and taught them the right way to do it. But there's a lot of agents out there doing it the wrong way. And I think, what's the most common thing you see, Jim?
With working with investors?
Well, I'm talking about with agents. Working with, trying to do property management.
Okay, agents trying to do property management.
Thinking they can do property management.
Yes, I understand.
And just jump right into it.
It's a very hard business to jump right into because there are a lot of moving parts. I think sometimes an agent will think, well, I have a rental property. So why can't I do property management? I know what I'm doing. Oh, Arden, I have changed the oil on my own truck before. That doesn't mean I should go out and have a mechanic garage. You know what I mean? And when you're managing properties for other people, you're a third property manager, there's things that you can't do if you were just managing your own. You can never collect money and put it in your own account.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
This is the biggest one where I see agents say, okay, well, I'll collect your rents for you. I'll take my fee out of it. I'll put your rents into my bank account, and then I'll write you a check. That is completely illegal with the state of Ohio. Every dollar of client's money has to go into a special trust account. So we have our special operating account.
Right.
There actually has to be specific wording on the name of that account. So it has to be broker property management special trust account. You have to have a second account just for security deposits. I saw.
And you can't. Can you earn interest on a security deposit account?
You may not.
Right.
You may not.
So remember that.
And another thing, and I've seen this come through the state a number of times, you can technically earn money on an operating account.
Right.
But every bit of that interest, you have to divide up by which owner had that much money in that account at that time, or you have to have them sign a document waiving any interest, which is always an uncomfortable conversation to have.
Yeah.
So it's best just to make sure it doesn't. Another one we get into is fair credit reporting.
Okay.
You know, you see them all over the place now. Zillow has their own background. Rental Beast has their own background. We get audited every year by TransUnion, and we have to show them how we lock our files, how we handle clients' information, how we disseminate it, how we destroy it. When you think, well, hey, I'm gonna go get a credit report, and I'm gonna go give it to the owner. If it's down to little things like that. If I don't manage your property, I can't pull your tenant's credit and then give that to you. I have to pull that credit, give it back to the tenant, and then they can give it to you because I don't have permission to do so. We see a lot of things like that, but also, you know, you being the broker, you can only have one property management system in your brokerage.
Right.
So we have so many written standards. This is what we'll accept as a tenant. This is our criteria. This is how we handle money. This is exactly the procedure we use on a move out. So if we are doing that for our 827 properties, and then you have one agent over here who is accepting tenants on a more relaxed schedule, when you as the broker are discriminating against someone, because your standards for this one person are different than they were for the other 880 tenants we just placed.
Yeah.
So it's not just the agents getting in trouble, it's the heat that they can bring to the broker as well.
Right. Right. Listen to this, agents.
Well, I hope that makes you sleep better tonight, Arden.
Oh yeah, I'm going to sleep way better on that. But yeah, so you know, a couple things that I wanted to touch on too. You know, when you what's kind of your list when you start looking for a tenant? Okay, so you're managing the property goes vacant.
Correct.
And kind of what's your procedure from that point then, Jim?
Okay, this is a great question, and this is a very important one. So whether you're a property manager out there, whether you're an individual owner, you are required to have a written set of standards on what you will accept as a tenant. If you are ever asked to produce that in a fair housing situation, they want to see it, and they want to see it to show that you've been consistent across every tenant that you've ever talked to. So for ours, we have our written. An owner always has a right to say, I want something more strict, and we'll help them write that. So for us, we'd like to see at least a 600 credit score. We don't like to see collections. We're okay with medical. You know, we understand people get sick.
Yeah.
Sometimes those things happen. We like to see at least 2.5 to 1 income to rent ratio.
Okay.
So if your rent's $1,000, we want to know you're making at least $2,500 a month. There can never be a collection from a past landlord that's still open. That actually, it's a neat thing we have in our system. It pops up in big red letters, delinquent to past owner. Of course, we don't like to see any recent evictions.
Right.
That's normally a hard stop. And then with the criminal, it's sex, drugs, or violence related. So if you have those on, it's probably going to be a no.
Now, are you calling past landlords on
As often as I can.
Okay. And you find out they're very truthful.
If they don't want that tenant in their house, they'll oftentimes tell you a little fib.
Yeah.
So when our report comes back, it's a pass-fail conditional.
Yeah.
So even though I'm the property manager and you sign a contract that told me to put a tenant in your house, you still have the ultimate say on who goes into your home.
Okay.
So we're going to send that report to you. I'll get any backup documents. But what I like to do in this digital world is say, hey, Mr. Tenant, can you show me the last 12 rent deposits that came out of your bank account and when? That way I don't necessarily have to rely on that past landlord to tell me the truth.
Right.
But
He's showing you the truth.
yes, show me, don't tell me.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I guess we're going to probably wrap up here a little bit, but I just want to kind of reiterate to the public out there kind of what you do and why should you hire a property manager? When should you make the decision? You know, I see people that are, you know, get not as old as us, of course, a lot older.
Right.
They shouldn't probably be managing properties.
Well, you
but-
said that now.
But the thing is, it gets to the point where you don't enjoy it. Maybe you started it to enjoy it, then you don't enjoy it. It gets cumbersome.
You start finding out that there's more to it than what you thought.
Exactly.
Maybe you didn't realize you had to have rental registrations. Maybe you didn't realize that you need to change your insurance. There's a lot to it. So, what I guess the best way to say it, I actually just did a video on this. One of the things you're going to get is you're going to get care and you're going to get competency. It's very important to me for the size of our company and for the protection of my owners. My big why in life now is to help build wealth for other people.
Mm-hmm.
and help them understand how to build wealth. And of course, I like to do that through real estate. So when you come to our company, if you decide to hire a management company like ours, you're going to get immediate competency because we want to make sure that we're dotting every I, crossing every T, keeping you safe, making sure that we're not putting you in a position where you can ever get wiped out financially because of a lawsuit or a fair housing or, your home really wasn't up to code and you had people living in there when you shouldn't have. We see that. And you're going to get a lot of care. My team, I can say, truly cares about our owners
Mm-hmm.
and our owners being profitable. So when you're making those decisions, and unfortunately, I have seen people say, I'm just so tired of this, I'm going to sell everything. There's other options. And when you come to Keller Williams Chervenic Associates, those are two things that I guarantee you'll get, is you're going to get a high level of care, you're going to get a high level of competency out of us. And sometimes you're going to find out that your profit margins swing way up.
Mm-hmm.
You may be paying me 10% to manage your property. You may also find out that I make you 30 or 40% more profitable.
Right. I saved the best question for last.
Okay. As if I wasn't nervous before, but thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, we all deal with the landlords that say, you know what, I don't want to muddy the waters. I don't want to raise their rent. I don't want to do anything to lose them. What do you say to those type of owners, especially when you get them in as new clients and you see they haven't raised rents for a while and they're way behind the 8 ball, what do you do with that, Jim?
We coach them. We coach them through it. You know, and we have this happen literally all the time.
I know.
Where an owner says, hey, I'm happy with my profit margin. I don't want to change. I never want the tenant to leave. It's very unlikely somebody's going to pack up their entire family and move out of your property for $25 a month more.
Yeah.
So oftentimes what we'll do is we'll start just small nuisance raises.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, Arden, if you have let's say it's a 6-unit building and you paid fair market value for it 20 years ago and you put your tenants in and you never raised the rents, your building is literally worth the same as it was 20 years ago, because when we go to sell that building, it's going to it's going to be cash flow based as far as the value.
Mm-hmm.
Single family homes will still appreciate without that.
Right.
But you know, my job is always to serve my clients, and sometimes having some difficult conversations of, I know you want to help everybody out, but you're actually hurting yourself more than anything. And now you're making it really unrealistic for that tenant. So instead of bringing them back up to a fair market rate gradually, if something would happen and you say, hey, I'm just going to sell, you know, maybe they should have been paying $1,000 a month for what they live in, but they were only paying $7 for the last 15 years.
Right.
Now they go out and they have payment shock. So you're really not helping them the way you think.
Yeah.
And that has been a source of profit for a lot of my owners, where we'll have an owner either pass away or just say, hey, I'm just absolutely not going to do it. I'm not going to raise the rents. We're going to sell the building. Then we'll have another one of our owners buy it. They'll take a year, they'll raise all the rents, and then they'll go out and sell that building for 30% more the next year.
Yeah.
So
happens all the time, folks.
It does. And it's, you know, personally, I would rather see that 30% of wealth stay in your family than you lose it to somebody else's opportunity.
Right, right. Well, that's one of the reasons that you need to talk to Jim.
Please talk to me.
How do they get a hold of you, Jim?
Easiest way is my cell phone. I try to always answer. It's 330-807-5611. You can send me texts as well. My email is jsheppard, SHEPPARD @kw.com. And folks, I talk to investors from all over the country all the time. You don't have to be one of my clients to call and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, or this is the situation I'm in. I'm happy to talk to anybody about real estate investing at any time and help you build some wealth for yourself.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I felt like this is something we need to cover.
It's a good one.
You know, property management is just kind of one of those unsung heroes.
I haven't been called an unsung hero before, but I'll take it.
But anyway, get a hold of Jim. I think, you know, as you can see, he's a wealth of knowledge. He knows what he's talking about. And, you know, at Keller Williams Chervenic, we feel comfortable with Jim in the right spot. And we feel like everything's compliant.
We do our best.
I use that word a lot.
We like to be compliant. We like to be compliant as much as we can.
Yep. So, hey, thanks for tuning in today. And if you have any questions, reach out to Jim. Or, you know, if you have any real estate questions, give us a call. Lisa will answer the phone. I know that.
Yes, she does.
Yes, she does.
You do as well.
I do too. So anyway, give us a call and we'll be glad to help you out.
All right. Thanks. Guys.